Let's welcome in to delve into all this stuff. Joe Vardon, who does a great job covering the NBA for The Athletic. Remember last year during the playoffs, he did join us in studio. Joe, I know we're supposed to be talking about the games and the start of the NBA season, but with the NBA these days, we're talking about what's going on in LA with the allegations with the Clippers, and now this story involving Chauncey, Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones. How are you?
My week began, I covered the Thunder's ring night, and then Wednesday morning I flew here to New York. I'm just down the street from you right now, for Knicks Cavs. And then I was supposed to this morning fly to Indianapolis for the finals rematch between the Thunder and Pacers tonight. And I was up at about 7:30 and tipped that this was coming, and obviously didn't make the plane. So I'm still here in New York writing thousands of words on the indictments and doing these interviews, and also just trying to wrap my head around what is surely one of the worst days for the NBA in decades.
You know, as an NBA fan, like the poker stuff, I just don't really care about. But when you get into the idea that games could be rigged or information is getting released, obviously that's what a lot of NBA fans are going to care about, because there are fans that are gambling and you wonder about the integrity of the games. So since this has been released earlier this morning, when you got tipped off about it and the news comes out and you just saw the press conference and all that stuff earlier this AM, just what's your reaction on that side of it? And how do you think the NBA is going to respond to this moving forward into the future?
You know, Zach, I have a few different reactions, both to the day and then to what you said. So I think, first of all, there is the visual and the audio of the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, no matter who it is. That's his title. And he stands up there in the same sentence, he says the NBA and La Cosa Nostra. You can't live in 2025 and imagine that happening. And so that was a stunning moment. And then for me, with the indictment of Damon Jones, and he is essentially, although LeBron is not mentioned by name, Damon is accused of sharing information with bettors that LeBron wasn't going to play in a game. So while LeBron is not under investigation, at least that we know, and certainly has not been accused of a crime, you're talking about a betting scandal that reaches all the way to the top. So there is that part of it. And then, you know, just the reaction that that this is ongoing and more wide ranging than what we already know. I mean, you know, there was alleged illegal activity around the Magic. And you mentioned there was also illegal activity around the Blazers. And was Billups charged with anything in that? No, but he is charged in the mob scheme, and he was the coach at the time when the alleged illegal betting activity was happening around the Blazers. So this is a mess. And, you know, in this country, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. And I think that we all need to remember that. That certainly could happen here, and that would be good for the NBA to help get out of this. But otherwise, like, yeah, there is a question about the integrity of the sport. I would tell you, you know, not to ramble on too long here, but I would tell you that when we still think of fixing games, it's almost like we go all the way back to the 1919 Black Sox, and like they're throwing games. Okay, that's really hard to do. Especially in these team sports where, like, you know, and maybe in baseball, it's easier if you're the starting pitcher or whatever, like you can more impact the game. But when you have teammates in a football game or in a basketball game, like if everybody's not involved, like it doesn't necessarily work. So when we think about, well, who won this game? Is that okay? Is this on the up and up? I think the answer is still yes. But when we're talking about individual performances, and is each player giving his all each and every night, or are they influenced by prop bets against their own personal performance? That is a major question. And with apologies to the 431 now, whatever, let's say 431 players not under indictment for this. But with three of them or four of them or however many it is that now are charged with it, that does raise the question of how widespread is this, and that cuts to the heart of the integrity of the sport, and that's what the NBA can't have.
Yeah, and what do you say to fans today? And I'm not naive here, right? I have reads on this show where it talks about gambling companies being an official partner of the NBA, right? So I understand fans are going to say, well, the league's finally got in bed to all these gambling companies. You make your bed, now you lie in it. But I don't think any of the gambling stuff is going to go away. The toothpaste is already out of the tube, and there's money for these leagues to be made. So it's almost like, what does the NBA or what do these other leagues do when more and more of this stuff will pop up, because this isn't the first and it's not going to be the last?
Yeah, I mean, and just like this, the disclaimer you just gave, I mean, it's in my story that's on The Athletic and The Times right now, that The Athletic has some sort of partnership with BetMGM. So these things are everywhere. And you're right. Like, from a pro sports perspective, like, people forget, like I did some reporting on this in 2019. As soon as this became legal in the United States, the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NFL, they launched a multi-million-dollar nationwide campaign to get it into state law that they have to be paid on sports bets. That didn't work, but they figured out how to get paid anyway. And once you identify a revenue stream, it's really hard to voluntarily cut it off. So I agree with you. I would also say, just to play a little devil's advocate to the perception that's out there, which I'm going to address again in a minute, but you might say that, illegal betting activity has been going on for a century, and it happens all the time, and we don't know about it. And now that there are these formal partnerships between the leagues and the betting companies, there is much more scrutiny and much more surveillance, and we are actually catching people in the act, whereas we wouldn't have before. And I think there is some truth to that. But the public the part of the public that aren't gamblers, which is most of us, I'm not one. When all this went down, we were saying, well, wait a minute. For a century, you guys were saying how bad sports betting is for the integrity of sports. And in 2012, David Stern gave a deposition in the lawsuit that actually basically overturned federal law, saying how bad this was going to be. And now, all of a sudden, you guys are for it, and it's supposed to be okay, and then your players are getting in trouble for it. So it's like it's just that perception, right? The hypocrisy turns into the perception that these deals and the money that the leagues are making off it, at a time when players and coaches are being indicted federally for engaging in illegal betting activity, it just smells and it doesn't look good. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how you get out of this. But that is the situation right now.
And Adam Silver, he's got a big mess on his hands. And
yeah.
You look at the commissioner, you have the situation with the Clippers, where I don't think many people believe that the Clippers were in the right, and we'll see what happens. And then you have this now that is compromising the integrity of the game. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the commissioner. I think he's been overrated for years, but that's my own feelings on him. But it's going to be fascinating to see how he's going to handle these two things, because these two things are massive black eyes for the sport right now.
Yeah, I mean, Zach, that's just that's a really good observation about the moment for the NBA, because it's true. Probably today, most people aren't thinking about Kawhi Leonard and this environmental company that no one had ever heard of, and carbon footprints and multi-million-dollar no-show contracts, and the clip, that one can be a little dense. Like, you could say, hey, salary cap circumvention, and some people get that. But basically it comes down to, did a team cheat to pay its star player more money than it was counting against its own salary cap? Anybody can follow that. The Clippers insist there's no wrongdoing, but the NBA is investigating that. And then right at the time when that is still on the front burner, this drops. And so Adam Silver certainly has never faced a moment quite like this in his tenure as commissioner, a tenure which began, we have to point this out, his first season was 14-15. And in November of 2014, he wrote an op-ed for my parent company, the New York Times, which in which he said it is time to legalize sports betting federally across the United States. He's the first pro commissioner to say that out loud. So that's how his tenure began. And now he is facing his ultimate test with not only the Kawhi stuff, but gambling. It's cutting to the heart of his sport. So, you know, I mean, I guess as a newsman, I would say this is a fascinating time. It's certainly a precarious time and a dangerous time for the NBA, because I mean, this is something anybody can understand. If your customers don't believe in what they are watching, then they won't watch. And that is the fundamental issue here, and what Adam has to navigate as he tries to get through this.
The last thing I'll ask you, because you talked about the LeBron connection here, where LeBron James is reportedly the player Damon Jones used inside info about before a February 2023 Bucks-Lakers game obviously you guys with The Athletic, that I saw that information that you guys had it. So with the Dodgers scandal with Shohei Ohtani and the interpreter, that was something obviously that Major League Baseball was able to get away from. And there's still a lot of lack of trust in that situation. You either believe it one way or another. I don't think there's a gray area. In this case, there's going to be a question, well, if Damon Jones is leaking this information about LeBron, what did LeBron know? I don't think LeBron really knew much. That would just be my guess. That would be my first read. If I'm wrong about it, I'm wrong about it. I know LeBron's hurt right now, but isn't he going to have to answer about this and release some statement about this, you would imagine?
You know, I don't know. I mean, it is rare for LeBron to release statements. You know, we have a quote from somebody close to him that says that LeBron didn't know that Damon Jones was allegedly doing this. But you might say, well, how does the source know that? So, look, I mean, I'm just plainly speaking here. I covered the game before when LeBron broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. That was the game before this game in question. I was there, and certainly left Los Angeles to go home after covering that story for 2 weeks, thinking that LeBron might not play the next night against the Bucks. Just kind of knew that. So, you know, I mean, like, is it plausible to think that like LeBron's just going on with his business and like not connected to Damon in that way? I think it is, but it's just, even if that's totally on the up and up, and LeBron had nothing to do with this, no knowledge of it whatsoever, it still touches him, and that is the worst thing. He has been the face of the NBA for 2 decades. And, to have a sports betting scandal come anywhere near him is just, I mean, it's devastating for the league.
And then just one last thing. I know you got to run. Joe Vardon does a great job for The Athletic covering the association. There's so many different involvements in this story, and there's so many different things that, we've read a lot of it, but more and more is going to come out just throughout the day. Is there anything else that really stands out to you that maybe we didn't talk about that just like right there on the mind that you go, okay, I just want to say something about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, like you were touching on it before I came on, which is true, which is just like as you read through the indictment and you understand that Chauncey wasn't charged in the what I call the Jonte Porter scandal, because all this goes back to him initially. But whatever you want to call him, Chauncey's charged in the poker thing, not charged in the basketball thing. But there was illegal betting activity going on allegedly, when Chauncey was coaching that team. And the more you read that indictment, it looks like they're saying, hey, we think it's him, we just haven't charged him with it yet. So that makes you think that whether it's Chauncey or somebody else, like there are still more players to be charged. And then the other point that I want to make is when we think of betting and we think about, whether even it's Jonte Porter, there was a betting scandal at the University of Toledo, which is this mid-major school in Toledo, Ohio, the northwest corner of the state. I actually covered it. I was there in 2006 when it happened.
Wow.
That's one of my first big stories. Those people involved in stuff like that, they are economically vulnerable. I mean, Jonte as a G leaguer makes a lot more money than I do, but he was not a millionaire, okay? And so you could say that the allure of making that extra money could appeal to him. Or in the case of these kids in Toledo, I mean, these are guys, they're never going to be in the NFL, most of them. They weren't going to be in the NBA. And so some gamblers in Detroit get a hold of them. You understand it. Like you see, like you don't like it, but you understand it. But now in Major League Baseball, you've got Emmanuel Clase under investigation for this. He is the closer for the Cleveland Guardians. And you have Terry Rozier been charged today, multimillionaire. Chauncey Billups, millions and millions and millions of dollars, and a Hall of Famer charged with something like this, and maybe could be charged again. This is like the rich, the financially secure athlete is not supposed to happen.
Because I remember when this stuff was first allowed, I said, I graduated college in 2016. I said, there's going to be so many cases of this going on in college. It may not be from the star quarterback, but the 6-string linebacker on a 100-person football team, it wouldn't surprise me. The fact that it's been this often and this many instances in pro sports, that's the part to me where I don't say it's stunning, but I am somewhat surprised by it.
Yeah, and it just, again, the fact that it has permeated the sports to this level in a way that it shouldn't, because the money and the risk is not worth the reward for somebody who already makes 7 or 8 or 9 figures.
He's Joe Vardon, does a great job for The Athletic. Joe, I'm sure you'll be in New York for the rest of the week, right?
Something like that.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.